Okay, so much of this is going to be a reminder, but I just wanted to take this one example of a poem and show you how looking at a word's both literal and figurative meaning really enriches our understanding of a poem or really any text. So you know that's what we're always after. We're also always after going beyond the literal meaning and trying to understand and grasp the connotations, what the poem's suggesting, and the connections that are created through the use of figurative language or suggested meanings um, in the poem. So we'll start with this poem and just do this one poem by Thomas Hardy, which is called The Darkling Thrush. Hardy is known for his bleakness. And this poem is no exception, except he turns it around here at the end. A couple things before I read the poem to you, because it's a poem that you don't know. First of all, he wrote this at the very, very end of the 19th century, so it's about to turn into the 20th century. And so, much like uh, experiences with changing centuries, which, oh, actually, you haven't experienced it. Never mind, you're too young for that. Often there's a lot of anxiety involved when new centuries come along. There's fear that something will be lost, or fear about things going forward. So just as there is often like a lot of joy and hope and maybe curiosity about what's to come, there tends to be amongst many people the same amount of anxiety and fear and worry about the what is to come. And so we know then the 20th century brings on pretty early on some pretty horrific stuff. So he wasn't too far off about being afraid, I think. But that's just my opinion. So he's writing this at the very end of the 19th century, and also the reference to a thrush. A thrush is a kind of bird. We'll see in the first two stanzas he's feeling very bad and very negative and very hopeless, and in the last two stanzas that begins to turn around. And we know it takes place during winter. We have the reference to frost here in winter, right? Okay, so darkling thrush. I leant upon a coppice gate when frost was spectre gray, and winter's dregs made desolate the weakening eye of day. The tangled vine stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyres, and all mankind that haunted nigh had sought their household fires. The land's sharp features seemed to be the century's corpse outlent, his crypt the cloudy canopy, the wind his death lament. The ancient pulse of germ and birth was shrunken, hard, and dry, and every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. At once a voice arose among the bleak twigs overhead in a full-hearted evensong of joy illimited. An aged thrush, frail, gaunt, and small, in blast beruffled plume, had chosen thus to fling his soul upon the growing gloom. So little cause for carolings of such ecstatic sound was written on terrestrial things afar or nigh around, that I could think there trembled through his happy good-night air some blessed hope whereof he knew and I was unaware. All right. So the first thing I want to point out is the use of the word specter, right? So what's a specter? It's a ghost, right? So he's describing the frost as ghost gray. And that in and of itself, well, frost you think of as white, but this frost happens to be gray. That kind of adds to the kind of feeling of misery that he's got here. But the use of specter gray, ghost gray. Okay, so it's gray like a ghost is gray. Well, yes, that's the literal level, absolutely. But what are the connotations that we get by using the word specter? We think of hauntings, we think of the dead, we think of the unfulfilled, right? Coming back to to earth, right? And because they are not satisfied, they're not rested. And in fact, we see in the rest of in the rest of the stanza into the second stanza, there's a lot of reference to death. We got corpse, we've got spirit, we've got haunted, etc. So the specter gray, right? It's not just, okay, it was gray, like the color of a ghost is gray. There's more to it, right? So that's one example there. Then I want to look at the image that's created with the tangled bind stems, right? So he says the tangled bind stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyres, right? A lyre is a stringed instrument. Okay, so we see these stems, like these branches of sorts. They're scoring the sky, right? So what does it mean to score something? Well, first of all, it means to mark, right? To scratch into or to mark. So it looks as though these stems are marking the sky, right? So they're kind of sticking up, and we see these lines, and we see like so the sky is lined. But we also need to consider the fact that we have this very earthbound thing that is somehow damaging the sky. So there's something about the whole environment, right? Not just here on Earth we're miserable, but even the sky gets hurt, gets injured, or is injured in this process. In addition, right, scored, right? Scored, and we have in the next line the word lyres. If you know anything about music, you know about scoring, right? A composition, right? So we have this suggestion of music here, which right now, though, is unfulfilled. When we get to, of course, the last two stanzas, it's all about the music of the thrush that the thrush is, throwing upon the world, kind of in a sacrificial, beautiful way, flinging his soul. Okay, and there are a number of other examples that I can give here, but that's just what I wanted to start with. So I hope that was enough to kind of get you thinking. We're not just interested in the literal meaning. We're interested in all the connotations as well, and figurative meanings and those associations, so that it all ties together. All right, thanks.